Hi, I'm sharing with my Christian brothers and sisters some new ideas regarding Jesus. Hopefully you'll take these on board and then think about the Lord of the Second Advent in a completely different way too. Jesus' primary purpose to die on the cross, this is generally accepted, but actually it doesn't really make sense that Jesus should come a second time. If Jesus could accomplish the kingdom of heaven on the earth, this is the mission for which Jesus came, for which Jesus spoke about in the early parts of all of the Gospels. Jesus speaking about, make yourselves ready. The kingdom of heaven is at hand. This basically changed after John the Baptist denied he was the Elijah. And also John the Baptist didn't even follow Jesus. And furthermore, got his head cut off by a dancing girl, basically. Put an end to the possibility of the then chosen people realizing that the prophecy in Malachi 4, verse 5 had been fulfilled. Jesus said that the returning Elijah, was actually John the Baptist, but John the Baptist denied that he was the Elijah and also even denied that he was a prophet. This gave a lot of frustration toward Jesus, and then Jesus' message fundamentally changed, and the goal of Jesus became one of spiritual salvation rather than full salvation, which would have given rise to the kingdom of heaven. So if you think about it, when for example, Jesus' disciples asked him what they should be doing to be doing the will of God, Jesus very unequivocally answered, to believe in him whom he has sent. That is the will of God. He could have said loads of things. He could have said tithing. He could have said, feeding the poor, living for the sake of others, doing prayer, fasting. He could have said any of these kind of things. But he said the fundamental thing is to believe in the one whom he has sent. We know that John the Baptist lost his faith because he sent a couple of his disciples shortly before his head was cut off to ask Jesus the question, are you the Messiah, or should we look for somebody else? Check this out, it's in Matthew 11. Also, if you believe that Jesus is the Messiah, then how would you then conspire to set about the situation where Jesus is crucified on the cross, because that's his primary mission, if you understand that as his primary mission? It totally doesn't make sense. Totally, truly doesn't make sense. So if that was true, then Judas should have been given some credit for betraying Jesus and made into a saint, or, honored in some kind of way because of what he did, but that wasn't the case. Jesus basically said of Judas, it's better for that man if he had not been born. That's totally saying it like it is. He also said that the least in the kingdom of heaven is greater than John the Baptist, even though he was the greatest born of women. And he said, you went out into the wilderness to see a prophet, and more than a prophet. So basically Jesus was saying that John was more than a prophet, because all the previous prophets were prophesying from a period of distance in time, but John the Baptist was contemporaneous with Jesus and could actually have followed him. Also, John the Baptist had a lot of disciples that were trained in ascetic training, that were totally prepared to follow the Messiah and were really hungry and looking for the Messiah. If John the Baptist had really thrown in his lot with Jesus, then he would have been the chief disciple of Jesus. And then the kingdom of heaven wouldn't have been taken by force. People like Peter would not have become the chief disciple. And he would have been very happy about that, I can totally tell you. So we need a fundamental rethink regarding Jesus. And if we have this rethink regarding Jesus, we can also, by the same token, have a rethink regarding the Lord of the Second Advent. Jesus himself said that the prophecy in Daniel chapter 7 verse 13 is actually referring to Jesus, when Jesus made this very simple statement, all the law and the prophets prophesied until John. which means all these words were talking about Jesus. So even though it says that the Son of Man came on the clouds, figuratively, from a certain point of view, then Jesus truly came from heaven. He is totally not of the thinking of this earth. He's totally not connected with the fall, totally not connected with Satan. So this Daniel 7:13 prophecy had nothing to do with the Lord of the Second Advent. My personal feeling is that the Lord of the Second Advent was not even a thought at that time, that Jesus was supposed to fill his fundamental role as the true Adam, to replace the false Adam who fell and gave rise to all of fallen humanity. So I'm saying we need a fundamental rethink regarding the personage of Jesus. Then if we understand that Jesus' primary goal was to build the kingdom of heaven, then the prayer in the Garden of Gethsemane makes a lot more sense. That Jesus is not demonstrating some human frailty regarding his life or showing that he's scared about losing his life, but is actually striving to fulfill his primary mission and knowing that if he is killed, if his body is lost, then those who are following him also will have to go the way of blood in order to get spiritual salvation. And Jesus also said this, said, don't weep for me, weep for yourselves, weep for your children. And it's totally true. I feel truly sorry for the first chosen people, that they lost their nation and they were like wanderers for 2,000 years. I heard when they came back into the city after they got their nation back in 1948, the soldiers were in tears when they sounded the trumpets from the walls of Jerusalem for the first time in like almost 2,000 years. Totally incredible. We have to know that this time is the time of the last days, truly is. So we need a major rethink regarding Jesus, a major rethink regarding the Lord of the Second Advent. So I'm recommending for you to download a PDF copy of the Exposition of the Divine Principle by Reverend Sun Myung Moon. And if you have heard about Sun Myung Moon, you need to go to the source and understand what he himself is speaking about. And look at what he's saying and evaluate it for yourself. Don't let other people do it for you. Trust me, I've got the books The Moon is Not the Sun, In the Shadow of the Moons, and Bad Moon Rising. I read all of these. I know they're scurrilous works. They have a hidden agenda. They basically say what they think you want you to hear, what they want you want to hear. And they seem to be strong arguments, but they're not actually. They're kind of lost works. You can read these also, why not? But Exposition of the Divine Principle, it's very logical. It's speaking very clearly about the original ideal of creation. It's speaking very clearly about the fall of man, why God could not prevent the fall of man, speaking very clearly about restoration. Then the Bible will come alive for you if you read this. It's really, really, truly interesting. I've also read the Bible through systematically on more than 2 occasions. So I'm totally there's no disparity between what Reverend Moon is speaking about and what the Bible is truly speaking about. Yep. Okay. To encourage you to say that St. Paul also missed connecting with Jesus in the flesh. But St. Paul truly was a very effective apostle, even more so than the other apostles who were living with Jesus, but actually really truly didn't understand Jesus at all until the 40 days resurrection after the crucifixion. Yeah, please check this out and come back to me. I'm very interested to hear your opinions about this, and that we can start to talk more constructively together and sharing about the Lord of the Second Advent, who has already come. Okay, thank you very much. Bye.